Hi, you're with Peter Carr and Scott Stewart on LTV's The Research Channel. On this episode, we're going to quickly bring a few themes together. We're going to talk about mobility, we're going to talk about platform as a service, and we're going to talk about some interesting device stuff.
And security, perhaps.
Security? Yeah, throw that in as well. So, platform as a service is probably the forgotten cousin, if you like, of the cloud family. Infrastructure as a service, very well covered. Software as a service, very well covered. I think platform as a service, still has people scratching their heads about how it can be best applied in their organisations, and certainly from what we've seen over the last couple of months, mobility is probably one of those areas where platform as a service should be the number one option or consideration for an organisation. So, forget doing it yourself. There are some wonderful platform as a service mobility vendors out there in the market now who are really kicking some goals. So we had a briefing this week from a company called Speedwell.
Yes.
Obviously some notoriety around them, especially in Queensland in the last couple of months when Premier Bligh announced at her industry lunch that they had engaged Speedwell to create for them a ministerial documentation mobile platform, if you like, and there was some pushback from the industry that why they'd chosen them, who were essentially, Speedwell were a web development company in this space. So what are some of the highlights from that briefing? Yeah,
look, it was very interesting, and you think about the cabinet bag, as they call it, has been around since Westminster days, and it's sort of the last bastion of of sort of high security documentation that definitely is for your eyes only. So Speedwell have done a fantastic job. So I've seen the application, and it's in use, it's working, it's very secure. They've done a very different approach to security. Apple have looked at it, are very interested. I think it's definitely something to watch. I think there'll be more news in that space, and I think that highlights. For me, is that the CIO is going to have the board member. Well, in this case, the politician saying, I want my iPad. I want to be able to use my iPad when I'm travelling, and the ability to access these documents while they're not even online, was a key part of that brief.
So just some simple offline caching.
Well, it's all secret. I'd have to. If I told you, I'd have to kill you then. No.
Right, fair enough.
No, but it's certainly, they were definitely able to achieve that in a very unique way. So it's a great success story.
Well, what is the difference here then between something like a Queensland Government cabinet, who have taken this approach to, as you say, view cabinet bag documentation for a group of only, 12, 15 people?
Absolutely, 12 only.
12 only. So you take that, compare it to a recent decision at the ANZ to not allow board members to bring iPads to meetings. Why are we seeing such a differing positions in terms of these policies regarding devices and access? And coming back to original point, how can this approach to adopting platform as a service assist in seeing more examples like the Queensland Cabinet and less examples like ANZ Board? Yeah,
very, very good point. And I think the mentality has to change from let's build an app. Right? So if you're thinking, well, we need an app, so let's build one, versus...
Who doesn't love apps though?
Well, that's right. But and I'm not saying you don't end up with an application that's used by the user, but it's the way you approach it. And so from the security perspective, from the business rules, from the reusability of web services, if you're using a platform as a service, and we've done a session on LonghausTV about Blink Mobile, and that's a very another success story in that space, and they take the enterprise away from that building an app mentality into that reusable web services where you control the rules engine, where you can control the security, and you can have proximity security. I think that's the other thing too, is the maturity levels of the security are improving, where they're introducing things like proximity, and they're introducing encryption and soft tokens, etc., like that. And so once you approach it as a platform approach to development, you can develop your security rules and your controls and your governance, and you can make sure that that is applied to every application, regardless of the operating system. That's the other aspect of the platform as a service approach, is you're not going to be able to keep up with the operating systems
No,
of these
absolutely
mobiles.
not. And it's moved ahead so far. This is why I'm very confident in saying that the likes of Blink Mobile and Speedwell
Yes.
will be acquired in the next 12 months by bigger organisations. So the opportunity to begin discussions about how these ready-made, robust, real-time
Yes.
solutions can be rolled out in a very short period of time, circumventing perhaps 6 to 12 months of development and planning inside the organisation. It's a real must that organisations take a look at this stuff, anything to do with mobility.
Yeah, and it works. So VMware vForum, I'll talk about that. That was a fantastic event, and they decided that they would go paperless. So they basically had all the agenda, all the schedules, all the user registrations, everything was in a mobility platform, viewable on an iPad or an iPhone or any device, BlackBerry, everything. And that was developed by Blink Mobile. And my understanding was that website was available on like the Friday night, and it was all ready to go on the Tuesday, Wednesday. It was a very, very short time frame. And that's testament that this stuff works, that it's a repeatable, reusable process. And, and there's another component too, which is, to bring in another briefing, I guess, is Entrust. So they're a very large US security organisation, and they have a mobile sort of SDK, which is available now, which allows you to embed, some state-of-the-art security into these platforms. So therefore, you could, you think about the work that Speedwell have done and how they've deployed it. You think about Blink Mobile from their platform as a service. You get the SDK from Entrust, and you are going to be able to deliver a mobility solution that's usable on any device, that doesn't need to have a programmer to develop it, because it's all wizard-driven and rules engine-driven, and your time to deploy is going to be much shorter. And you're going to tick the boxes on the governance and business rules and security, and on a whole number of fronts.
And I think why the timing is so great for organisations to take a lot of confidence from what we're seeing come out in the market is that at one end of the spectrum you have super critical core business process, such as state government cabinet documentation, and I bet a brick to London we'll see more jurisdictions adopt something similar, that they can't not.
That's right.
And at the other end we have this campaign approach to event management of content, delegate experience, all these sorts of things, which kind of, one's a very internal, secure view of enterprise information, one's an external view for stakeholders, whether it's business as usual or for a specific campaign. The ability that we can do both these things with such high degrees of assurance and confidence, and it's not cost prohibitive, and it's addressing so many risk factors that would otherwise rest within an enterprise that may not necessarily have the skills to do these sorts of things. Platform as a service and mobility, will definitely be one of the big trends for 2012, and we've already written about that in your note about street commerce, which is what we're calling that new approach to that kind of commercial realisation of these technologies for businesses.
It's basically a mandatory channel that's being added to this multiple channel integrated sort of marketing, and it is so much about marketing, isn't it? I mean, marketing is about getting content out.
Well, not for the cabinet ministers.
No, but it's a similar principle.
At that street commerce end.
It's a similar principle, because you're getting content and information specific to the user, available across multiple channels and multiple formats.
It's personalisation.
Information personalisation is exactly what it is, and if the CIO is not focused on that, if they're not seeing that here's another channel which is now mandatory to be added to their sort of distribution of information personalisation, they'll do so at their own peril if they're not getting equipped to handle it.
Absolutely, couldn't agree more.